All right, players from last week's game on offense, graded out in a blue, which is an A, had 2 TDs, big blocks in the run game and screen game, was Thomas Spurbeck. On the defensive side, also graded a blue, A, 9 tackles, 1 fumble recovery. Did a great job of watching film and had great assignment, was assignment sound. Ben Weaver. Tyler Rassa was 4 for 5 and on field goals and 5 for 5 on extra points. He was a special teams MVP. O-lineman Stephen Baggett, graded out in a blue, had no MAs, that's missed assignments. D-lineman was Armand Nance, was a blue, 3 tackles, 2 for a loss, was credited for the safety that we had. So those are the players of the game. Hawaii is 2-2. Norm Chow, we know who he is, offensive-minded coach. I think he's done a very good job. They have 2 former Broncos coaches on staff, Don Bailey and Tom Mason. Tom Mason was the interim head coach when I was here as a player. Don Bailey was a wide receiver coach. Helped with the wide receivers during that time. Offensively, heavy inside zone team and like to throw it vertical. You know, it's they will throw it, they can run it. I think their personnel is very good. One thing I think they've done a very good job of, even though they've had a couple games where they haven't scored, they have made second half adjustments from the offensive standpoint and have been better. Defensively, very multiple. They bring pressure and they're physical. They give you a lot of different looks. And so probably more than we've seen from any team we played. I think offense and defense, this will be the most difficult game because of the style and the players that they have on the offensive side. And Max Wittick, a quarterback who's a USC transfer, who I think is a very good player, does a very nice job and is capable of running that offense very effectively and making a lot of big throws down the field. And then just defensively, you know, we know the physicality of Hawaii. They've always been physical. Now you add this component of guys flying around and a lot of different looks. They will bring pressure, and that's something that we did not do a very good job of handling in the last game. So we have to improve in those areas. They beat Colorado, which is a Pac-12 team. They held Ohio State and Wisconsin to 14 points at halftime. And then special teams, their field goal kicker, 4-5. You know, they've blocked their first punt of the year. They blocked 1 punt this year, and they've kind of changed up a little bit of things, you know, what they're doing on special teams. So we've got to get a little bit better idea of what they're doing there. As far as us, you know, going into this game, we expect a sellout crowd in Albertson Stadium, the environment to be exciting. We expect our student section with something a little bit new, the bus, for those guys to be loud and be excited at the game. And then we're looking forward to being back at home on the blue and letting our guys play and really kind of having a couple normal weeks here. You know, we play on Saturday, and we've been playing these Friday games, been a little bit difficult, but our guys handled the travel to Virginia very well. They got Saturday off. They were excited about practice yesterday. So as long as we can keep that enthusiasm moving forward that we had going into the Virginia game, I think we'll be okay as far as we prepare, as far as preparing and getting ready to play. So with that, open up for questions.
Injury report coming out of last week, so Dylan obviously, and then you know, I think Tanner left for a little bit, McNichols left
Yep.
for a little bit, JT, just kind of how everybody's doing.
Yeah, other than Dylan, all those other guys will be back. You know, they got banged up a little bit in the game. For the most part, they all played through it, and we took them out at the end. They could have kept playing. Dylan will have surgery today, and so I think that's I don't know the time frame, but he actually has surgery tonight, and so we'll get him back on the mend starting tomorrow, literally, where he can get back on there and start moving a little bit, and then we'll just see what his recovery time is from there.
What do you do?
Broken bone inside of his ankle. don't know the exact bone of what it is, but they'll go in there and they'll fix it. So, and that's a tough deal. And we talked about injuries, just like Ryan Finley. These guys that get banged up, it's hard. And, that's an opportunity for the next guy, Cam Miles, which he came in there and played well. He had a really great pass breakup in the end zone. And so it's his opportunity to step up, and then Hartsfield, Skylar Seabold, guys like that, those guys are also going to have to step up. But, what I told the team, it's not about the next player, it's about the team really carrying the flag. And I thought we did that, when Finley was out. I thought the team rallied around, not just ripping, but everybody, knowing that we had to play better. We wanted to prove something on the road. And we played one of our better games in all three phases against Virginia. So we know what we're capable of. We know that we can go out there and play at a very high level. And to me, it's about consistency. Can we do that again and recreate that type of preparation this week? And then can we carry that over into the game?
Going back now, you had a chance to see how Brett did. How do you think he did against Virginia? And you said that he obviously had to handle some pressure at times as well.
Yeah, he did good. He operated the offense. He took the throws that we expected to be there, and he made the checks that we expected him to make. We had a couple little cadence mishaps, which happen sometimes, when you have crowd noise. We were trying to use our cadence, thought we could. But overall, I thought he played well. He prepared well for that game, and that needs to continue this week. So that's part of the quarterback position. I think overall, he graded out fairly well and probably left a couple things on the field we could have took advantage of. But the adjustments that we did make in the game, we hit. And those were adjustments. The one to Spurbeck was an adjustment, that we had talked about. If they do this, we need to take advantage of it. That probably fired me up more than anything, is when it presented itself, he was able to see it, and he and Spurbeck hit it. That's what adjustments are for, is to take advantage of the opportunities and the looks they're giving you. So to me, that was probably the best moment, just as far as quarterbacking goes in that game. But for him, hey, great opportunity, getting in there and playing the way that he did. That's got to carry over this week, So he knows he can play. We've seen him play. He's had a half in a game now to get in there, but we're, quite honestly, we're facing a team that's better and are going to give us a bunch of different looks, and we got to be prepared for that.
You mentioned after the game you liked his toughness, getting up from the hits and stuff, but you probably wouldn't like to see him take those hits. How do you assess the O-line's play in that game? I know the running game struggled a little also, but in pass pro and Brett's ability with some of the sacks and getting hit.
Yeah, sacks happen. I think when you take a sack, if it's, by sitting in the pocket too long or it's a coverage sack, those things happen. What happened, we redirected the protection and we cut a guy loose, which should have never happened. And so he took a shot. Now, I don't like that. That shouldn't happen. And so we've got to do a better job of communicating and being on the same page. But you're going to get hit at quarterback, and do we want our guys getting hit? Absolutely not. But if you're going to play effective, you're going to have to run. You're going to have to get hit. You're going to have to stand in there like you did on the touchdown throw and take a shot. That's part of the toughness. And, that's why we got the touchdown, is because we had the advantage. But you're going to have to stay in there and be a tough guy when you let the ball go. And it's exactly what he did. So, to me, that's why the requirement of toughness is number one, for those reasons there. And he showed that in that game. And there's other examples and definitions of toughness. When we face some adversity, which we will at some point, all right, how do we all handle that? How does he handle that? So we're always preparing for those things.
I know last week you brought up that Virginia, you referred to them as a hardened team, a battle-tested team. Hawaii is the same way. They played that game against Ohio State. Just
right.
Play tough against Wisconsin. They beat Colorado. Is this maybe an underrated 2-2 team? I mean, what do you see from them?
I do, because they played the #1 team in the country. They played Wisconsin, who was physical, and they play with 3 tight ends and try to pound you. Both on the road. Yeah, I do. I think this team is. I throw their record out. I think they played some very good teams. They beat Colorado, which is shown to be a pretty good football team right now. So, Hawaii to me has always been a good football team. They've always been physical. They've always played extremely hard. I don't see that any different. And as much as I felt that about Virginia, we gained the momentum in a hurry and we kept it in that game. And so I think that was one of the big reasons why the game went the way it did. In this game, that's going to be a big factor as well. These guys are going to play with you. Hawaii is a team that doesn't quit, and so we just got to be prepared for that.
Hawaii's defense really gave Wisconsin and Ohio State really all they wanted, especially in the first half. What did they do that gave each of them most trouble?
Well, I think the confusion they caused. They give you different looks. Now you've got to be. You're talking about 2 off an edge from either side, 2 up the gut, 1 high, 2 high. There's a lot of mixture in there, and sometimes you don't know exactly when it's coming. So for a play caller, it makes it difficult. I also think they created some turnovers. They created problems. They created negative plays. They disrupted momentum. Is probably the biggest thing. That's offenses are trying to create a rhythm and momentum. Defenses are trying to disrupt it, and they did that. And so they seemed to get both teams a little bit off their game, until they settled down and just started kind of doing their base stuff and, quite frankly, in some areas just being better, making a guy miss, having a better athlete in a certain position. Other than that, they were difficult on defense. And that's why when we look at it, we know what they're capable of doing. We're going to have guys do the same things. It'd be a one-on-one situation, make a guy miss, make something happen. We're going to have to create some things that aren't just drawn up the way they're supposed to be played.
You mentioned Cam Miles. What have you kind of seen since he's been here, and what did you guys envision maybe his playing time or role being, this year coming in, and then are you concerned at all with the depth there?
Yeah, the depth is an issue. You got guys that are banged up, and it's always an issue. If you don't have 3 solid guys, you consider that an issue. But we have guys that can play. They're ready. I think Cam came in there and stepped up. Cam has continued to improve week to week. He's gotten better on special teams. He's gotten more involved there. He's been in the games. He's been in the rotation, so he's had a chance to play. We kind of moved him around when he got here. He was playing safety. He was playing nickel. We were trying to figure out, is he going to be on the field? What's the best combination? And so, Dylan had been playing well, and I thought Cam had been playing well also. And now this is his opportunity. That all needs to show up. And I think, when Dylan went down and Cam came in, the play he made in the end zone, that's a play he's been waiting to make. And that should give him confidence that he can play fast, make those type of plays, and that's really what we expect from him.
You mentioned the team getting back on their regular schedule after traveling across the country. For Hawaii, it's a team that has to make a trip like that roughly 6 times a year.
Yeah.
If you had to go do that as a coach or a player, would that weigh on you?
Yeah, they flew back. They flew back from Wisconsin. I'm not sure if they normally do that. Usually when they have 2 games here on the mainland, they just stay. They usually stay in Vegas somewhere and practice. So I'm not sure, but yeah, that travel's tough. We came from Virginia, got back at 4:30 in the morning, and luckily we had the next day off. So guys were able to lay around, watch some football, do a little bit of treatment. Coaches could get caught up in a little bit of sleep, and then we're back into our normal schedule. But yeah, the back and forth of that can wear on you. Especially, I don't know what their bye week schedule, but like in our case, we don't have a bye week till week 9. We have to be smart about that too. Sleep, making sure we're taking care of our bodies. That becomes a big factor. I know it is for all the teams. And their travel is different than most.
At quarterback, you guys talked about you kind of plan on using Tommy more than you did last week. is that something you expect to use a decent amount going forward, or now that you've seen what Brett did, is it kind of go back to sort of traditional setup? Or?
I don't know yet. I still think, we still want to use Tommy. We still want to have the ability to utilize a package or his plays, or go let him play. One of the things we didn't get into was letting him just have a series and play too. And, so that to me, it's all a work in progress. And no, we're not in a whole 2-quarterback system. All right. That's not what we're doing, but we're letting guys play. And so if that means we give them a series versus a package of plays, we can do that as well. And to me, it makes us more multiple on offense is what it does. And I think, like any other position on our team, if guys are deserving to play, we try to find roles for them. Why is it any different for the quarterback? As long as he can come in there and continue the flow and keep the momentum, then to me that just gives us the advantage. So, we'll keep working some things that way. We'll see how much we do it. I really thought what Tommy was going into the run was going to be a lot better than it was. And that's not on Tommy, that's on me. Just bad design. And they played it well. So we need to find a better design for him to go out there and execute.
You were a redshirt freshman in 1996.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Pardon?
Thank you.
But it was a very difficult season around here. Pokey Allen away for cancer treatment. Tom Mason was the interim head coach. What do you remember about that season and the difficult situation Tom Mason was in?
Well, I remember Tom Mason gave me the scholarship. I remember that. I remember Pokey had told me I was going to get one in spring, and then he was gone, and I was in there bugging Coach Mason. And I think I bugged him to the point where he's like, fine, we got one, take it. And after I got into coaching and I thought back to his situation, I appreciated what they went through and what he had to go through as a interim head coach under the circumstances a whole lot more than I did as a player. As a player, just like coach me, and you're kind of selfish. You're just thinking about playing and all that. He's done it twice now. He did it at SMU as well. And so I've seen Tom over the years at coaching conventions and all that. I got tremendous respect for him, and even more so, looking back on what he had to go through in that staff, and with Pokey passing away, him being one of his best friends, it was tough year, and that staff gets let go, and you still follow them, but they scatter, and he continues to be successful, where he was, and the whole SMU deal, that's a bad deal, but look what he did. He stepped up and took it over. I mean, who wants to do that in that situation? But he did it, and he did it again, and so yeah, as far as, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for him as a man and a person. I got tremendous respect for him as a defensive-minded coach, and what it shows. I mean, we got to compete against him now.
With conference play starting, how do you kind of turn the page, I guess, and how big of a deal and emphasis is put on conference play, and also with the way the new system is set up with the committee picking the group of 5 and all that? How do you guys? Does it change the way you look at other scores or approach things as you get moving into the season? And Marcus was saying maybe it puts a little bit more pressure on not being able to lose a game. But I mean, how do you kind of look at the new system going forward too?
Yeah, as far as conference, yeah, things change. We actually, our goal above here, that becomes the focus. Is trying to find a way to win our conference. We want to start conference play the right way. So. Yeah, it's all focused on that, and it's all focused on Hawaii. As far as the committee and all that, I used to, when I was younger, get caught up in some of those things and all that. But the one thing about football, and we talked about this in fall camp, and Nate Potter was talking about a story when he went out there and he played against some D end and did very well when he played, and then Julius Peppers rolled in, and football humbles you, all right? And you start getting too far ahead of yourselves or trying to control what you have no control over, it can be very challenging, all right? And the team you're playing really doesn't care. They want to beat you. So we're focused on winning, and that's it. And that's week to week, and so there's no more pressure than what we put on ourselves to get that done. Regardless of what anybody ranks us or puts us, we're trying to win every game. We've been trying to win every game this year, believe it or not. So that's not going to change. And I thought the best thing we did last game is all that distractions, social media, noise, and all those things. Not one of our guys had any of that in their minds other than just playing the game for 3.5 hours and just focused on that. How awesome is that? So, and it showed up. If we can keep doing that, avoid all the other distractions, then I think we can continue to be successful.
You talked about Tyler really quick after the game, but how have you seen his growth and development? Obviously, guys seem to be pretty confident with his ability to kick. Obviously, is that a predetermined situation where he's out 51 yards out that you guys probably already know that he can run out there in a situation like that?
Here's my relationship with Rasa. He gives me inspirational information to either share with myself or the team. He tells me what kickers need and how they should be coached. All right. When he misses something, he coaches me up on it, on why he missed it. And that's about what I do to help him. And if he tells me, Coach, I'm good from this distance, then I believe him, because he's the best coach we have out there when it comes to kicking. He is, and the same thing with Sean. It's very, I don't know the ins and outs of that position. I know what it should look like and the results that we want. But the thing about Rasa is he's so in tune to developing himself that when he believes he's capable of kicking it from this distance and he feels good about it and says, hey, my range is from here, then I believe his range is from there. And the one that he missed, to me, that's about as good of a kick. That's exactly how you have to kick it. You go for it. There's no hesitation. And I wasn't upset and he wasn't upset because I thought he went for it and we hit the upright. I wouldn't have, we'd like to make it, but hey, the guy's going for it from that far out. That to me shows a lot of confidence that he has, and we have confidence in him. I like how he prepares himself. I like what the specialists have done. They've really taken their group and done some things on their own in practice that he brought to light as far as ideas on what we could do to help them, and it showed up. So if that continues, he tells me where he can kick it from, then I believe him.
Can you share one of those ideas maybe?
Yeah, so like iPads at practice for instant feedback. These guys can watch themselves. They can get instant feedback on what they're doing out there, and they can correct it because you're going from a special teams period to a team period to a special teams period to a team period, and they've got time. And those are some of the ideas that these guys have brought. And then, I ask more than coach, in those positions like, hey, what'd you do? Sean had the one that was a low line driver. Well, you need to drop it a little bit more is what he told me so you can drive it in the wind. Well, he did that, but he didn't follow through and finish the kick, so it became low instead of the trajectory that we wanted. So to me, it's working through those issues with the specialists, and those guys done a great job, and I like where they're at. And Coach Ridd, he's helped those guys, but I think we have two very sharp specialists that have made us better, and we're trying to do things to help those guys grow.
Two unrelated questions for you. First, Don Bailey, you mentioned him a little bit. I don't know how much interaction you had with him when he was here and what you remember. And secondly, what is BUSS? B-U-S-S. You tweeted something about that today.
I'll leave that one alone a little bit. Still working on it. Yeah, Don. So, he was helping with the wide receivers here, and I liked him. I thought at that time as a player, I thought he was a good dude. I was impressed because the guy could sling it. He had a hose. He had played quarterback and probably had the strongest arm I'd ever seen in person. But I followed him. He's jumped around a little bit, but I've obviously, from him being on the staff and being a Boise State guy, all the coaches that have been through here, I kind of follow, or at least where they're at, and there's quite a few. So he was at Idaho State. They were rolling, putting up points, and I see the same things with Hawaii's offense as well. You know, just they can put points on the board, and they got a quarterback that can do it. They've got some skill players that can get it done. So, you know, he's done a good job. You know, and we're preparing for that and preparing for an offense that's going to try to attack us.
Consecutive shutouts. What's the reason? As far as turnovers,
For them,
for you, no turnovers, 2 straight games.
yeah, I can't tell you that. I don't know. I think the one thing, I don't want to tell you because I don't want to jinx anything. How's that? Just being stingy with the ball. Here's the one thing. You go look, if you look at the one stat that we keep that I've said, it's got the L next to it, and we lost the turnover battle. So there really isn't anything other than that. If you really believe in that, which I hope guys on this team do, then if everything ends in a kick on the offensive side and we can create turnovers on defense, which I think we can, then we may not win by 45 points or whatever, but we have a chance of winning the game. At some point, we'll get into a rhythm. We'll get something going. We will score points. If our special teams can kick field goals from 50 out or 50-yard field goals, we can put points on the board. So that's really it. It's just it's always being aware of hanging on to the football, taking care of it, and being stingy with it. And then on the defensive side, doing everything we can in our power to get it. And our guys showed that. They were aggressive. Guys were getting after it. They were attacking the ball. We created turnovers. That's where we win the game, is in that area.
You said a minute ago that this Tommy Stewart stuff was your fault, bad design. I'm wondering if you took on a particular part of the game plan or why you're blaming yourself on that. And then, you know, Jeremy doesn't have some crazy number of yards like you'd expect of a guy leading the nation in touchdowns and 10 touchdowns, but he keeps getting in the end zone. So I wonder what it is about him. He seems to be able to find the end zone.
Yeah, I don't know. He puts himself in those situations. Obviously, running the ball, you know, that's one of the things. We do want to run the ball inside the red zone. We have to test that theory as many times as possible, run to win. We actually had a play designed to not throw it to him when he caught the touchdown, but they gave us the one look that told us to throw it to him. And that's, you know, Brett did a great job on that because there was one look that if it came up, this is what we have to do. And it came up. And he threw it out there, did exactly what he was supposed to. We caught it and we blocked it just like we thought, and we scored. So, you know, I think he's just, you know, Jeremy's got a nose for the end zone. And that one, the throw, you know, he just has to run it in. The runs have been different. His second effort, scoring on the runs, that's a lot on him. You know, we blocked it for a certain amount of yards, but he's just had great second effort. You know, and to me, that's the maturity of a guy at that position, getting more confident, getting more mature, understanding what it takes to get it done when you're down there in those situations. And then, yeah, I mean, as far as the offense, you know, that was a package. We've had a package like that, but you know, I had a suggestion in there and thought it would be good. Didn't work out, you know, and. The thing, you know, we put together a plan, offense and defense. These guys, they're executing the plan, all right? It's not always perfect, but you know what? When our guys give effort like that, that's all we can ask for. And if the plan's not good, that's on me. And we talk about it. We spend time in staff meetings. We look at it. We make sure that what we're doing should be sound. And if we get beat on something that's not sound, then that's on us. And that just, in that case right there, they played it better than we were able to go out there and execute it, and so we got beat on it.
Earlier in the year, the big plays on defense were an issue, especially against BYU. You know, Tanner extending plays and making things happen. Max Wittick is a surprising athlete. He's a big, strong guy with a big arm. Is there any worry that those big plays might become an issue again? The past 2 games have been pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think if we'll just go out and compete and complete every play, and we've really had 2 on us this entire year, all right? The 4th play of the BYU game that went for a touchdown, and the 3rd and 18 that got thrown over our head. So 2 plays that we put ourselves in bad positions, and those 2 plays were big plays. So we haven't been in that situation, and I don't expect us to be in that situation. Now, I'm not saying guys aren't going to make plays and they can't throw the ball down the field and hit a big play. Virginia did. We weren't out of position, we were competing. And so that's the difference. If we'll compete and complete every play on the defensive side, then if they can make them, you know what, then they got a great player out there catching the ball or whatever, or they just had a great throw, whatever it is. But, you know, we've taken we've taken to heart the 2 plays that I mentioned there, and we're going to try to not let that happen again.
Best thing Hawaii's offense does when you look through at their 4 games, what's their call? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen all 4 games. I think throwing the ball vertical, from what I've seen, they can run it, but, you know, you start looking at, you know, these teams that throw the football and throw the ball down the field and throw it vertical. You know, that's where your big, tall, strong quarterback comes in, is being able to throw the ball vertically. And so if they're going to pick on a linebacker and try to get a matchup and hit it between the linebacker and the safety, then, you know, he's got the arm to do that, and they've got the wideouts to do it. So if we're not going to get pressure on him and we let him stand back there and just hose it down the field, that's going to be a problem. And so that's my biggest concern, is the vertical pass game. You know, they'll dink and dunk. You know, we can come up and tackle on that stuff. You know, we do the same things, but they throw the ball down the field and hit a seam. That's what concerns me most.
DSG and Finley both getting hurt early in the season. There's an outside chance that both of those guys could be eligible for a medical red shirt, more for Finley than DSG. But is that something you'll take into mind with DSG as he's coming back late in the season? Maybe hold him back and see if that's a possibility?
It's always a possibility. That's not the mindset right now. You know, both guys we want to get back, and then we'll determine, because you never know how fast they heal. You know, that's one of the things. I mean, if they heal and they're capable of playing at the level that we need them to play at, everybody feels good about it, then, you know, we'd like to get them back. You know, this season is the most important season. If they're not, then we reevaluate, you know, where we're at. So to me, it's all about, you know, hey, our guys, they want to get back and play. It's our jobs to make sure that they're capable of playing at the highest level they can play at. And if they're not, then we don't want them out there playing. It's not good for them. It's not good for us. And so until we kind of know what their rehab is as they get a few more weeks into their after surgery, you know, then time will tell.
I know you guys are talking about obviously going into Mountain West play, but what would you kind of take away from the non-conference schedule? What would you learn about your team? And obviously it was a pretty difficult stretch of games for you guys.
Yeah.
And then you talk about second effort really quick too. You know, Thomas Spurbeck is a guy that seems like he continually kind of makes an impact away from the ball, set the edge on Jeremy's 47-yard rush or whatnot. But what does he got to bring in terms of, you know, just when he's away from the ball even?
Yeah. Your first question. So what did we learn about our team? We played 2 very good teams in there. Three very good teams. And, you know, Idaho State at home, which was a game after a loss that we played well in, and we got after them. You know, I think what we learned is if we play consistently, then, you know, we can be pretty good. And we do that with all 3 phases. You know, we show up and can be a pretty powerful football team, is what we learned. We got a chance to see some young guys play. So going into league play, now we got some new faces, not just all the true freshmen, but the new faces that haven't played. Because we have a stretch here now for I don't know how many more games until we have a bye, and you're going to see more faces playing out there. You know, so it's been a really good learning experience leading into conference play, and hopefully we learn that how we prepare and what our focus is and the type of energy and enthusiasm we bring to the game on a day-to-day basis. You know, that shows that it showed up. Let me say that. As far as Thomas goes, you know, and really all those wide receivers, but Thomas, you know, we motioned him down and he had to go crack the safety, which was the key block. If that play bounced, which is what we hoped would happen, that everything would basically wad up and it would bounce outside. He was going to be the key block on it, in which he was. And I don't think any wide receiver goes to a school, all right, maybe other than Georgia Tech, and says, I'm going to block and want to do that. And these guys, they'll do it. They'll do whatever they have to do to help us be successful. And that was one of his plays that, it's for the love of the game. Go in there and put your body into a bigger guy and be physical with him, and he was. And then the reward is you get a chance to throw 2 passes in a game and catch 2 touchdowns, right? I mean, so there's always a reward for when they look at you and go, well, hey, here's the reward. We're going to let you throw it twice and catch 2 touchdowns. So they'll look at you and go, yeah, that's pretty good, But really, that's our football team. That's how we should be, all right? We're not in any way, shape, or form good enough to go out there and just, pick what we want to do. We got to do what we have to do in order to win. Okay. Thank you.
So you guys got